Now, one more question. How many of you have tried at least once UPSC? Just raise your hand. If any of you have already made one attempt at least, then raise your hand. How many of you? Raise your hand fully. Good. Thank you. Put it down. Some of you have already tried, so you are somewhat familiar. First of all, I welcome you all to Raj Bhavan. You are the fact that you are all civil services aspirant, that makes you stand apart from many others. Civil services, both state as well as the union, of course, union has much larger scope for progress in career. This is a wonderful career. Civil services are a wonderful career for your personal growth, personal satisfaction, and also for doing service to your people, society, and the country. And I find that quite a good number of you are still pursuing your undergraduation. That's a, in a way, it's a good sign that you are started because you become eligible only after you are a graduate. But the fact that you are conscious of it and you have started preparing or thinking of it and then seriously working on it while you are an undergraduate student, that's a good because I invariably advise aspiring civil servants to join young. Join young because, you know, in your long journey, there is a point, your date of and year of birth is important, but the day you reach the superannuation day, the retirement day, that is 60 years, your journey in civil services will be over. So if you join late, I am not discouraging those who are already, let us say, they are in the later part. That's okay. But those of you who are young, and many of you, I can see most of you are, try try to make it, crack it when you have longer years to go. Because if you join, let us say at the age of 30, then your active service will be only for about 30 years. And when you have a 30 years of active service, it is unlikely that you reach the top. And when you are joining civil service, your legitimate aspiration should be to reach the top. Reach the top in your respective services. If aspiring for IAS, Secretary to Government of India. Secretary to Government of India or the Chief Secretary in the state, that is the apex, the top in a civil service. When you are getting into IPS, then to reach in a state services to reach the level of DCP or in the union head of the central police organizations, whether Director CBI, Director IB, BSF, CRPF, ITBP, SSB. There are so many, CISF, there are not many organizations. In any other services, let us say allied services, again to reach the level where you reach the apex. So, those of you who are undergraduate, still you are preparing, start working on it. Preferably you try to make it earlier because the language, you need about 33 to 34 years of your service to reach the top. A miracle happen, but it doesn't happen often. in some stray case, but invariably it will be difficult to reach the top unless you have about 33-year plus service. Only then you can have a legitimate expectation to reach the top. So it is a wonderful uh, thought that you have, because these services, I think, I don't see any other area or any other career that would give you that degree of satisfaction in your life. Unless you wish to be an entrepreneur, you want to start in the business, that's a different one. That's the different, because nowadays you have multiple opportunities, and you can excel in life in any field wherever you are. But if you are not going into any of the professional organizations, like let us say if you are doing a business, running a business, or you joining into other services, which are there are lot of other services also of the UPSC, like Indian Economic Service and all these, where also you get opportunity to grow. But these are all part of the civil services, though the examination might be held separately. But primarily here, what we are talking is about UPSC, Union Public Service Commission. Now, it is a very transformative. You will find a very young man, a young woman, have nothing much, no, not much idea of life, may not be necessarily very polished or refined as one could say. But these services help you in your personal growth. It gives you respect, dignity, and a lot of opportunity wherever you are. Not necessarily when you are serving in the field, in the district and all. Even when you are in the offices, in the secretariat and all, on the headquarter, you have a lot of opportunity to do good for your people. So unless you choose to, someone chooses a career of politics. Now, if you choose a career of politics, I have nothing to comment on that. But that has its own ups and downs. But among the careers, this is the best. I think, first of all, I often tell the young aspirants that first you make up your mind, are you serious about it? It is not, and I repeat, it is not something that I also ran. If you are having I also ran, then you might be fooling your parents that okay, I am writing that, preparing for IAS or IPS. That will not work. You have to be first to make up your mind. Think of it quietly. And yes, because once you have made up your mind, you have to be absolutely disciplined in your personal life. You cannot have good social life running around and spending time, because you have to put in not less than 14 hours a day in your study. You should realize that the selections, which used to be about 1000, in the range of 1000 in the recent years, it has come down. So it is a very rigorous selection. But that does not mean that should discourage you. It only means you have to put in more effort, more hard work. So, once you are serious, once you have made up your mind, you have to have your schedule. Discipline yourself. Discipline yourself means your first is your time management. It's very important. how much time, when are you getting up, when are you going to bed, and what are the in between times that when you are awake, how much time you are giving it for your normal day to day activities that you have to have, which you cannot escape. So, if you are sleeping for 6 hours and more than 6 hours is a luxury which you cannot afford, let me tell you. If you think that you can sleep for, doctors will tell you, okay, 8 hours is a good sleep. That's okay, that you can sleep after you have made it, not when you are preparing for it. 6 hours is good enough. Up to 5 to 6 hours is good enough. And then you need about nearly 3 to 4 hours for your other activities, because you also need to have some time for your physical well-being, in the sense some exercise, because as a part of your discipline you cannot afford to fall sick. Because if you fall sick, because oh, I am very hard working, I will study, I will not, just sedentary life, sitting, reading, no, that's not good. You must have you must have some time, 45 minutes to 1 hour, for physical activity, not too strenuous. Not that you go to gym and start tiring yourself out, because if you tire yourself out, you will sit and you will half asleep. You will not be able to concentrate. So this is not a time for your bodybuilding, but at the same time, it is also not a time to spoil your health. But also, but what? Spoil your health by ignoring it, remaining sedentary. So keeping yourself healthy, physically fit, is a part of your self-discipline. You have to. So about 4.5 hours for that in a total. And then, so your time management, your physical fitness, health management, and then allocation of time. You have to be a strategic. A strategic means it's not the test of who knows how much. There is no end to knowledge. Knowledge is endless. So it is not the test of, yes, I know so much. Fine, good enough. But this is not. You have to be a strategic in the sense that you should know what you are required to know. I hope you have taken down the, it is all available on the net, syllabus, subjects and syllabus. So you have an idea. Quite a few of you, I'm not talking about professional engineering and agri graduates and all, but normal BA, BSc, the courses will be a little higher than that. So you have to take care of. You have the basic, if you are studying well in your graduation, it is actually the course is usually of honors. Syllabus is when for your subject, it will be for honors. But nowadays, because the distribution of subjects are such and mark is such, that while your subject which you choose for your mains, that will be important, but there are other areas also which for which you don't have to be so much and a specialist in your subject. But the subject that you choose, it the course will be, the syllabus will be little more than normal BA or BSc syllabus. So you have to be familiarize yourself with the syllabus. What are those? Go into the details. What are the chapters in any subject? Which is which are the chapters which are covered in the every chapter? They will put you. These are the questions. These are the areas from where they will ask a question. So be familiarize yourself with that, and then according to various subjects, you have to do their time allocation. Being a strategic means be clear about the subject, the things that you need to know, and then allocate the time accordingly in a way that no subject is left behind for long. There will be a you may not be able to repeat every subject every day. That is not possible. You have to so many subjects. But you should allocate your time in such a way that a subject you come back to it at least the alternate day. Today, then the day after again I visit my subject again. Some subjects which you need to carry on every day, but some you can. So this you have to allocate the time. So this way, a strategic being a strategic means taking care of yourself, your time management, understanding of the subjects, and allocating the time accordingly in a way that no subject is left behind. Normally, I have seen people have a tendency that you spend more time on subject which you are familiar with. You know, somebody loves mathematics, keep doing mathematics. No, that's not. That's not going to help you. It is not being a strategic. In fact, the subject in which you feel uncomfortable, but which is a compulsory, which you cannot escape. You have an optional subject which you choose according to your, yeah, that's your call. But the subject which are compulsory, and if you find it uncomfortable, spend more time on it. Because there is a saying, appetite comes with the eating. Even if you are not hungry, if you start eating, you start eating. You develop. So once you start devoting time to a subject which you are not very, I don't like this. Your like or dislike doesn't matter. You have to write the exam. You have to get the marks. So you have to allocate more time to the subject which which are compulsory at the same time which you are not very comfortable with. And then you will see the magic. After some time, you will start liking that. So, total impartiality to all the subject. Don't neglect any subject. Don't neglect any subject. About the current affairs, pick up one newspaper. You don't have to read too many newspapers. One national daily and spend some time on it. You don't have to read time on, okay, so many people drowned in a pond or so many elephant got trapped. They are all, this is not of your interest. You should, national affair, international affair, national affair, suppose if we have a G20, now G20 related, there are some event coming up, something, you go through that. Something about national education policy, if some news is there, some article are there, essentially op-eds and all. Read that. When you read it, this is an opinion of someone, but your mind, your slate is clean. There is somebody who has written and whose piece has appeared. That means that person has worked on it. So read it, try to understand what it is. In the process, develop the habit of noting down. Have a notebook, a hardbound notebook, and some important developments happening which you think that on these national and national affairs, there is something which you feel like you can jot down some points. Over the time, you will realize that you will become familiar. Maybe after 2 months, 3 months, you yourself will get to know more about it. You will start relating with it. So it is a continuum. You, in the very first day or first week or first fortnight, you may not have much sense of it, but you will develop it. So one newspaper, don't spend much time on the newspaper. I think unless there is an interesting op-ed, which is on a national or international affairs, you read that, spend some time, but half an hour, 40 minutes time should be, or 45 minutes time should be okay. While you are reading, also pick up expressions. It is also to improve your language. You will find a good op-ed. After all, people, those who write, they have something to convey. So the one is the idea which the author is conveying, and second is how they are conveying. So that expression is also important. You will find some good expressions, a word the meaning of which you do not know. Note down the word. Note down the word, and when you note down the word, there are a couple of things which you bear in mind. One is a word, it is a spelling, its phonetics, how it is pronounced, and uses. Build your, keep updating your vocabulary of expression. This will all help you not only in your examination but also in your life. Whichever field you go, communication is very, very important. How you know, a smart communicator, they are saying that a smart communicator can sell ice to a Eskimo. Eskimos, they live in halls to know. But a good communicator can pass it on. You see, the same thing two person says, one person says, not. But other person tells, and it is done. People accept it. There is a power of communication. So you build your vocabulary. It is a, in the process of preparing yourself for civil services, it will also, you will find, if you move it strategically, it will also build your personality. Personality is basically your understanding, your knowledge, your expression, how you are communicating. All these things go into building your personality. So these are all. So when I said you pick up a newspaper, I mean one standard good newspaper where you find people they write some usually well reasoned pieces they come. For example, here Hindu is one which is a very, by and large, it is considered a serious newspaper on which they usually discuss larger issues, not the smaller, not the one which are not there. And there are people who are serious. It has its own bias. That's okay. But I think it will be a good idea if you can pick up newspaper like that. So it will help you in improving your general knowledge, improving your awareness about what is happening, national, international, and also building your vocabulary and expression. These things will also help you. Now, avoid using eating junk food and all. Dinner should be light so that you get good sleep. Otherwise, you have a very full stomach, and because if you don't get a good sleep, the next morning also it will affect you. So invariably have a light dinner. Now these are some of the things which I thought it is general nature of general tips that each aspirant for civil services must bear in mind. Now I would like to, since some of you you had your experience and quite a few of have not yet appeared. I would like to I would like to hear your questions, your curiosity. What are the problems you are facing, so that I will be able to explain, and that will be for one question of anyone will be for the will be applicable for all. So come up, start.
We now call Sanjana, who has a question to share. Miss Sanjana?
Good morning, sir. In India, the policy of appeasement has perpetuated fissures to an extent of fault. So, do you think that short-term political gains have created problem in India?
Look, this is for general personality growth and understanding. Please sit down.
Thank you, sir.
That the policy of appeasement, is it good for the country or the society, is a generic question, and it can be even it can become politically loaded question. But the fact is, if you look at dispassionately, then what this appeasement does? Appeasement means what? What is appeasement? Appeasement means it is you are trying to placate or please a constituency. Constituency, I'm not talking local parliament constituency, or constituency means set of people, an interest group, by yielding to their demand or yielding to their expectation, which might give at the cost of others, which does not give a long term benefit to those also who are being appeased. Now, let us say poverty. There are a lot of some time to time freebies are given. Okay, you give free to somebody is given free, some community is given free, and all this. Thereby, you are pleasing that group in your favor. Actually, this doesn't do good. If you look at, I will briefly explain and then move over to other questions. You might be witnessing, if you are careful observer of the national scene, we became independent in 1947. We were a very poor country, lack of resources. We were way behind. We are in education, health, every area we were fairly behind. We didn't have many medical colleges, we didn't have engineering colleges, we had a few here and there. Road, electricity, drinking water, all these were a big problem. And at that point of time, we started our development journey. When we started development journey, the issue was, since you have very few resources, the government, both state as well as union government, they had a very small, whatever be the resources, the limited resources. How do you allocate? Do you allocate in a way that it helps only some section, not the others? Now, we kept following this policy, and in the process we kept appeasing certain sections. Appeasement can happen to anyone. It can happen to one section in this state, another section in that state. At the national level, appeasement can happen to some community, but it doesn't in the long run, it doesn't help. the, Actually, if the changes that we are seeing today, if today our country, which was not taken seriously, country of 1.4 billion, 140 crore, about 1.4 billion, we were nowhere in the reckoning. We had so much of a problem. We were weak, we were poor, we were hungry. But we kept appeasing to one section or the other depending on the convenience of a political party, but it didn't benefit. What happened is, in the last, if you look at last about a decade, with the new national leadership, there is a complete change, paradigm change in the governance. And the paradigm change is, the first thing is, basic necessities of life must be available to every citizen of this country. Now, when the decision is taken, not based on community, not based on caste, not based on religion, not based on region, which part you are, no. Every every citizen of India must have access to basic necessities of life. And what are the basic necessities? First is, of course, the food, shelter. You have to have a house. You have not many homeless. Huh? Clothing, yes, clothing, education, health, drinking water, sanitation, because all these things are very, very essential. Now, so the policies were framed in a way that it must, all the basic necessities of life, necessities for a dignified living of a citizen must be made available. So, when it comes to health, we have poor person. If a poor person falls sick, the family is ruined because the bill, health bill is so expensive. Medical treatment, you go and a poor person works daily wages, earns some small bit of money, and somebody falls sick. So either the family, the sick person dies, or the family is ruined, no money. How to make it affordable? So comprehensive program. It is only question of reimagining. If you say that no, my health problem has to, my people have to be addressed, I mean has to be addressed comprehensively, then you have to think of approach. Earlier, what we were doing? Okay, health is an important issue, fine. So we have this much money, so this much of money we will allocate for health. So we'll build so many hospital, so many medical colleges, some allocation of resources. It reached some, it did not reach many. Now, what is the present scenario? Yes, health must, every citizen must have access to health. So, multi pronged initiative was taken. First of all, Ayushman Bharat. Every poor person, defined by the criteria, how much is your income, is covered, must have access to medical facility. So 5 lakhs insurance is given to every family falling within that range. You know how many people are today? 22 crore. 220 million people are covered under Ayushman Bharat. 220 million people, nahi, families. 22 crore, because it is for a family. Each family is covered. So 5 lakh rupees a year is the coverage. So if someone falls sick, can go treat it, it is adjusted. It is insurance is covered. Government takes it. So a poor person has access to health. Then making medicines affordable, cutting down the prices of certain equipment like a stent in the heart or valve. These are very expensive that used to be. Even for knee replacement, the what the replacement, the mechanical thing which they used to get is very expensive. The price is cut, reduced, because they were making a lot of profit unduly. It has something which is 10,000 rupees, they were charging 120,000 rupees. They're such a large. No, if you have 10,000, okay, 20,000 you charge, 10,000 profit, fine. You make a profit. After all, nobody is doing charity. You are in business, so you must also earn. But you should not earn in a way that is, predatory. It should not be. So, certain very important life-saving, like a stent and the heart stent, valve, all those things, the prices, CT scan machines and all, their prices were reduced. Then medicine, generic medicine, what is called Jan Aushadhi. Every medicine, you have too many brands in medicine. Antibiotic of this company, that company, basic ingredient is the same. The basic ingredient, what is called API, generic drug, technically API, that is what actually is effective. For example, you use soaps. Some soaps you find very fragrance, nice smell coming and all that. But cost is okay, 100 rupees. You get a soap for 10 rupees also. Both does the cleaning. But if you the purpose of soap is to clean oneself, then one doesn't necessarily have to. If we make it available, the 10 rupees one, if I can afford 100 rupees, you go and it is your choice. If you have money to burn, burn it. But if I do not have money, I should be able to have access to soap. So similarly in the medicine, generic medicine and the branded medicine, the cost is almost 1 by 10th. What costs 10 rupees in the market, that cost branded one costs 100 rupees. It can be, there can be variations, but invariably you will find there is a wide gap. So generic, making generic medicines available in the country. And you know how many Jan Aushadhi Kendra we have in the country today? We have reached about 10,000. 10,000 centers where you get the generic medicines in the country. Doctors are being encouraged to prescribe those medicines. You have an option, many times they will say, okay, this, you have a generic this, you have this. Choice is yours, you like to spend money more, but generic is this also. So making medicine easily accessible to poor people. Then sanitation. Sanitation has a direct bearing on health. Giving toilet, cooking gas. If you could, this lady, the house lady has to cook burning coal, wood. You know, it causes health hazard. Lungs, eyes get affected. It is again is a health issue. And who gets more affected? It's the poor people. So have access to cooking gas so that is and sanitation. Drinking water. Many times because most of the diseases are waterborne. So access to drinking water, a potable drinking water, it's also a health requirement. Health is not just, yeah, just giving you medicine for cure, also preventive. These are all preventive. Why should I fall sick? If I have access to clean water, drinking water, that saves me so much from sickness. So giving every house drinking water tap. Nal se jal, what it's called. Drinking water from tap. And you know how many houses have got this portable? 90 million, 9 crore houses have been given access to drinking water. Rich people, most of people living in cities, not in slums, but all these people, when they have urban areas, they have water supply and all do it. But what about other? Rural areas, everywhere is not very clean drinking water. So almost 9 crore people got it. Now, approach in a way that covers everyone, no appeasement. Even when, let us say, earlier we were doing this community give this much, this community. I think it doesn't help. Appeasement, it doesn't take, it is not good for the constituency, the people, those who are target of appeasement, it doesn't help them or long. Suppose if a child insists on chocolate, you give him chocolate, it's okay. But it doesn't necessarily is a at the cost of someone. It is not necessarily it is good for. Now, so I'm not going into the political nuances of appeasement. Appeasement certainly is not is not a healthy policy. It doesn't help anyone, and that is why many a times it is only a short term gain for whom? Only for the people, those who are, let us say, a political party. Come election, you will find starts freebie, freebie, freebie. But freebie, whoever give free electricity, okay, farmers will have free electricity. There are many states who are competing now. I will give my farmers free electricity. You are trying to appease farmers, but what happens in the process? Take the case of Punjab. Whenever you give free, that actually it is not free. For production electricity, money is spent. It doesn't come free. The machinery, the people, the plant, all those take cost money. And if you give free, then actually it is not, it may be free for that group, but it's somewhere you have to, either you are not left with the money to development expenditure. You need to build roads, you need to build hospitals, you need to generate more electricity, you need to do so many things. Where is the money if you start giving free? So, this Punjab, what happened when they started in 1980 onward giving free electricity to farmers, initially the increase in productivity. But within 20 years, at that time, Punjab agriculture was almost thrice the national average. That was the productivity of Punjab. Today, it is less than the national average because there has been so much over exploitation. Because if it is free, I don't bother. No? If it is free, why should I bother? It is free. So, exhausting the groundwater going down, soil over exploitation, 3 crops, 4 crops you started taking a year, it became banned. Today, they are paying the price of that. But still, some government will try to do appeasement. It doesn't help. It ends up doing more harm. You know, it's not a, certainly it's not a, appeasement as such is not a good policy, it is a harmful policy. It is not good for the nation, it is not good for the people, it's not good for the society. Yes.
We call upon Adire, who has a question. Adire,
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, my question is, do you still think there is role for ASPA Act?
You know, Armed Forces Special Power Act, if you go on the internet, you will find many of my articles. I have been a very strong critic of it. In fact, I hope these are, I used to write those days when I was out of government. I was a very, very strong critic of Armed Forces Special Power Act because this act is prone to be misused because it gives Armed Forces Special Power Act, you know, it came in 1956-57 with the separatist insurgency in Nagaland. When Naga rebels wanted to break away from India and when they started fighting a war backed by China and then Pakistan because Bangladesh was East Pakistan. So they started giving them weapons and all. And so it was battle. Now, at that time, military had to be given certain special power because normal policing will not work. Normal policing is you go with a warrant, you go to produce the court, and I mean, you are finished. This is a war. It's a war-like situation. It's not a normal. It's a very extraordinary. So this came, but this becoming a norm because it came in 1956-57 and it carries on even today. Now, extraordinary situation should not be allowed to become ordinary. This provision where a military officer, even a non-commissioned officer, even a havaldar can shoot to kill. Normally rule is minimum force. Here it says if in his opinion there is no other way to check him, the can shoot to kill. So this is a very extraordinary power. Very, very. So it's a battle theater. Now it cannot be made law. So I was a strong critic of that it should not be allowed to continue for long. The fact is, constitutional validity has been upheld by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has said yes, it is a law, valid law, because I was against its misuse. There were cases where it was misused because we are all human beings. A military gets information through some informant comes and say in that house there are some terrorists, and they go and storm the house. You find some innocent people. That person has given information out of some other interest, but innocent people. So there are. It is It had to be used very sparingly. It cannot be. As a result, today, most of the areas have been freed from arms war. There was a time when the entire Northeast we had Armed Forces Special Power Act. All the 7 states we had. Today, most of the states are free. Assam free, Tripura free, Meghalaya free, Mizoram free. Parts of Nagaland, parts earlier used to be whole, now only parts of Nagaland, parts of Manipur, and 2 3 district of Arunachal Pradesh. That is the only limited area where it is still kept, but it is kept only because there are some people who are not acting, who are not resorting to violence, but they have not yet surrendered their weapons. So, should there be, suppose if we withdraw the military, then what is the guarantee that they will not start again? So, as a deterrence, we have to keep our military, and they will also come around. By and large, as I told you, that all these areas have become free, but some pockets, there are some groups who are living in camps. They are not free. They are living in camps, but with weapons. Who will stop them? Suppose if they go out of the camp and tries to do something. So there has to be a check on that. So today, Armed Forces Special Power Act has been lifted from most part of our country, and hopefully it should be removed shortly. We expect that it won't be long before it is lifted from all over. But as a law, it is it has been its constitutional validity has been upheld by the Supreme Court. It is a valid law, constitutionally valid law. Because a state, when I say a state means Indian state, a state must have, because a state cannot go beyond law. So there must be a law which is extraordinary in nature to meet with extraordinary situation. That doesn't mean that it has to be kept using it. No, there is a check on that. And that is where for a very long time from 1956-57 the armed forces which we had all over, by about 1980 entire northeast was with armed forces special power act, entire northeast, with 80s 90s 2010 2015 16 we were all the subsequent nearly for about 35 to 40 years the whole area was under armed forces. Now that was not acceptable. But with the peace coming, settling down, people coming to arms groups, leaving the weapons, coming back, surrendering, and all, that is how it has been lifted from all other areas. So, Armed Forces Special Power Act, as a law, it is a constitutionally valid law. Supreme Court has upheld it. Fine. This is an extraordinary law. It gives extraordinary power to the forces, armed forces. It has to be used under extraordinary situation. Next.
Renuka Devi.
Good morning, sir. Radicalization had slowly been entrenching the southern state. Uh, how do you see this trend, sir? Especially events like Coimbatore and Bangalore, sir.
You know, this is a good question. All questions are good. No, there's today our country is strong enough that external direct assault is not, no country can afford. Earlier, if you see, till a few years back, terrorists from Pakistan will come and strike Mumbai, strike other places in our country, Hyderabad, Bangalore, different places they will organize a strike coming from Pakistan, Jammu and Kashmir, they will strike. Many times attacking the armed camps, military camps. Even you find China moving forward, trying to encroach the territory and all that. Now all those things are over because after the surgical strikes, an air strike. We launched two operations with Pakistan. One was surgical, which was across the border, where military went on the ground and struck. Another was air strike, which was about 250 kilometers within Pakistan, where our air force went and attacked a terrorist camp. And one surgical strike on the east in Myanmar. We did two surgical strike and one air strike. After that, the message went clearly that anyone trying to be smart will be dealt with. Even China, earlier, they used to move, encroach our territory, and we only used to send a protest letter. Protest letter, diplomatic protest letter is called the marsh. Protest letter is a piece of paper. Who cares for it? But they kept doing it. But now, no. You will be reading in newspaper off and on. There is a standoff with China and all. You read more in the newspaper because our military is there on the border, and when they come, there is a face-off. Will not allow you to come. Move. And that is what is reported. Earlier, our military was not allowed to be at the border, at the line of actual control, what we call LAC. We have two terms, LAC and LOC. Line of control with Pakistan, because POK, Pakistan, complete Jammu and Kashmir is actually part of India. But Pakistan has captured it. So that line which divides the Pakistan occupied Kashmir from our Kashmir, that is called LOC, line of control. And with the China, since China says that their border with India is not settled as yet, though we had a settled border with Tibet. But after China took over Tibet, they said no, there is no formal agreement. In the ancient days, how the borders used to be defined, especially in the mountain areas, not by geographic, cartographic mapping. There was nothing like that. Okay, this is the mountain range. This range, beyond that, you are this and ours. This is the pass. This pass is with us or with you. If you cross the pass, you pay the tax. That is how borders were defined. Rivers, that part of the river is yours, this part is ours. Or maybe the mid course of the river is the boundary. That is how it used to be. So we had conventionally settled border with Tibet, but China, after taking over, they said no, we must have a proper agreement. And they started acting in a way. So we call it LAC, line of actual control. So earlier times, they on the line of actual control, they will transgress, they will say no, we are here, but our area is up to that. You might be reading in the newspaper, Arunachal Pradesh, new names coming up. No, they have their maps. They also define their map. They say, okay, Arunachal Pradesh is their area. They keep. These are all pinpricks. They try to say that no, we have a claim. Till 2016, 15, 16, even in fact earlier also they had melted down. Even Sikkim they were not considering as a part of India. Sikkim is not. Now that they accepted finally. But so because they say that we are far inside and Indians are occupying it, we say that no, this is ours, this is not yours. So we have LAC. Like for example, Ladakh, northern Ladakh, Aksai Chin. Aksai Chin is in 1962 war. Before that, they had captured that area. We were not aware of what was happening in that area. So they captured a large part, almost about 30,000 square kilometers. So we call that as LAC, line of actual control. We don't call it international border. International border only when both the countries, they mutually agree that yes, this is our border. So earlier times they used to move forward. We had kept our troops behind because after 1962 war, in 1962 war, India was humiliated. We had suffered defeat. And that was not because of anything else, but because our poor policy. We did not equip our military. We all believed that Santi, peace, peace. If we keep talking about peace, peace will come. In the world, peace, if you want to live in peace, you have to be strong. If you are strong, you are peaceful. Nobody will disturb you. If you are weak, you will never have peace. That is the law of the world, what to do. So earlier we thought that we are talking about peace, non-aligned, we are not with USSR, not with USA, nobody will disturb us. But it happened. China came, captured. After that, we got so defensive that we pulled our troops behind, way behind the points up to which they had come, fearing that if our troops go closer to that, there may be confrontation, and that confrontation may escalate into a war. So, out of that fear, we didn't even allow our troops to go. As a result, they kept moving forward. Our troops would go once in a while for patrol, as far as possible, and then come back. Because our troops were given instruction, you go and do the patrol. But there should not be confrontation. Now, military wants a clear direction. You cannot say, okay, you go and patrol, this is your area, but don't fight. How can? Because they thought that if we go, and if there is a confrontation, I will have to answerable to my higher command. The higher command general would say, political executive might ask me, why did you go? Why did you do it? Okay, avoid it. On the ground, we were defensive. Today, we have made very clear we will be up to the LSC. We are building roads. We even didn't build roads, thinking that if we build road closer to LSC, that will be taken as a provocative act by China. And that is what China used to say. How you are building roads? Do you want to escalate your military? No, we will not build it. No. We are now extensively building roads. You know how many tunnels have been built, even in, you have Atal Tunnel, which is in Rohtang, which is Himachal to Ladakh. Other tunnel, which is Jojila from Srinagar to Ladakh, is under construction, going to be complete. One tunnel in Rohtang, there's where in Tawang, where in this thing, Arunachal, so that we have around the year. We have built large number of advanced landing ground, ALG, where you can, your helicopters, military helicopters can run. So building them first. So as a result, what happens is very often there will be a face-off, a standoff, and that is what is reported in the newspaper. It's because we have ceased to take them, allow them to do what they were doing. That's what it is. So that is how. Chalo, next.
I hope this dare to think, as we rightly mentioned. Uh, I mean, the title, it's so apt. So only when you dare, you can think forward and you can go ahead forward. If you don't dare, you just can't even think. As the Honorable Governor mentioned, we must dare, we must stand, we must voice our opinion. Only then we can show them that, yes, I am also equally powerful. And that should come from within. And these sessions are being organized for you so that, like, you just don't stand there thinking. You dare, you think, you question, you get an answer. Because, as I mentioned earlier, before the arrival of the Honorable Governor, you are here to protect not only the country but also the dignity of the civilians. They look up to you. Yes, there is a savior over here standing right in front of me. They will take care of me. So your one such signature is enough to transform the lives. And the session continues. And now we have Sherlyn, who will pose her next question.
I'm quite happy about the fact that we have a large number of, perhaps more number of women aspirants. And the good that young men are also clapping. Yes, come.
Greetings, Your Excellency. My question to you is, you've become the governor of Tamil Nadu for about a year. So would you like to share the state's, about your experience with the state's people and its culture?
It's 1.5 years. It's not one. Maybe a little more, because I joined here in the middle of September, so almost 1.5 year plus. This was the first time I came to. I was most of my career. You might be knowing that I am from Kerala Cadre. I served in Kerala in various capacities as an IPS officer in subdivision, in district, in range, in that quarter. But beyond after that, when I left, I had to stint with center because again, as an all India service officer, you have an advantage. You serve in the state, you serve in the union. So I went to the union government. I served in CBI, then in IB, but I remained all outside. I remained only in areas which were not very peaceful. Jammu and Kashmir, Northeast, Maoist. So for the first time, I came to an area which is very peaceful, where people are very cultured, very happy. It's a personal uh, growth for me because so many things I'm learning, so many things about richness of Tamil language, how old this, because every one of us will remain busy in our own. If I'm in Kashmir, why should I think about Kerala, Tamil Nadu, or any place? I will be fighting the terrorists. I will be there. I will not. So, but here you see how ancient, how old is our language, how much wisdom, how much, and then you see the old institutions, because the rest of the country, a major part of the country, in fact, was for a longer period under all kinds of invasions that suffered and all. This part, a large part of it, of Tamil Nadu, they were not for long. They were largely protected, saved. So you have a continuing culture of several thousand years. A lot to learn. So I am really enjoying. I am very happy. People are hospitable, very loving. A great experience. Yes. Next.
Miss Bharati, she has a question. And Miss Bharati rendered her voice for the Bharatiya song as well today.
Good morning, sir. I aspire to become an Indian Foreign Service officer. So I'm asking a question related to our foreign policy related. Uh, do you think the economic and military strength of our country will deter other developed countries of the world to cooperate for fighting climate justice, for fighting for climate justice? And that's it, sir.
So you are aspirant for foreign service. Very good. Now, foreign service, of course, is a very premier service. You know, what's your name? You said Bharati. Okay, Bharati. Earlier our foreign policy it is again for all of you, because foreign policy is an area where related to that questions are often asked. Invariably, there will be questions, not directly asking what is foreign policy. Nobody will ask questions, but questions will be linked with that. Any relation with any other country, India's relation is linked with our foreign policy. What is our foreign policy? For a very long time after British left, we were confused people, and so was our foreign policy. First, we said we will be non-aligned. Means non-aligned means at the time, world after the Second World War, the world was facing Cold War. Soviet bloc, American bloc. The world was divided. And that was the time, after the Second World War, a large number of countries of the world which were colonized by the British, colonized by the French, colonized by the Dutch, by the Portuguese. Many European countries had colonized a larger part of the world. In India itself, we were colonized largely, major part was by British. But Goa was with Portuguese, Pondicherry and some pockets were with French. So they had all colonized. So these countries were decolonized. Sri Lanka was colonized, a colony. So many. So these newly independent countries at the time, some of them they joined American because it was the mostly colonization was mostly by the Western power, European powers. And since British and Europe and US, they were, I mean, especially the Western Europe, US and Britain were quite close in their foreign policy also. So some of these countries joined this America. But at the time, we decided no, we will not be with any group. That is a non-aligned. Not many countries of Asia and Africa, mostly Asia and Africa, they became. But when the non-alignment policy, it did not help us because in 1962 we were invaded by China. And at the time when the Chinese invaded, no country in the world, even our non-aligned members, they did not come and stood. But not that, not nobody said that you come and fight. They were not even willing to speak in support of India. Now, we kept, and then while we kept pursuing, and we kept pursuing also, even after Chinese war, no, non-alignment, because non-alignment was a policy articulated by our first Prime Minister. So when the party to which the first Prime Minister belonged, that party felt so much beholden to the first Prime Minister, they did not like to review the policy. Okay, we will continue to be non-aligned. That is our policy. And you will be surprised that while we continued the policy of non-aligned, in 1971 when we had with Bangladesh, then at the time when Mrs. Gandhi was a very pragmatic leader, very pragmatic and bold leader, she decided that non-alignment is not going to help us because Americans are straight with Pakistan. China is our hostile. 62, they had already fought a war. They were on the border. They will create a problem. How are you going to fight this Bangladesh war? Either you, Bangladesh, by the time Pakistan's atrocities in military atrocities in Bangladesh had already pushed more than 1 million refugees on Indian soil. In fact, I was as a student, as a college student, go and serve food in the refugee camp. About 1 million plus. Those is a big number. And unless we create a situation in East Pakistan favorable, we have a problem. So then India had an agreement, military agreement with Soviet Russia. In that military agreement, it was agreed that attack on one country will be treated as attack on the other. So this we had a military alliance. So officially we remained non-aligned, but we got into military alliance with Soviet Russia because Americans had sent their fleet, their naval fleet in the Bay of Bengal to defend Pakistan. Chinese were on the border. They were also friend of Pakistan. So Chinese, Americans, Pakistan. These three were together. Where did we go? We needed a deterrence. We needed someone to stand by us in case we have to win the Bangladesh war. And then in that background, we signed a military treaty with Soviet Russia. And with that treaty, when the Americans sent the fleet, the naval fleet, Russians mobilized. Soviet. That is not because we are under obligation. If you attack India, we have to defend India because that is our military alliance. And that also restrained China from becoming more aggressive, restrained America from becoming more aggressive. So America kept making a lot of noise against India. China supporting Pakistan, but on the ground they did not make any misadventure. And as a result, it was possible to have a successful Bangladesh liberation war. But officially we continued non-aligned, and non-aligned continued even after. Now, we remain confused. For example, Israel. We also, one is a non-alignment. Second factor that influenced our policy, foreign policy, was Arab Israel. Israel and Palestine. The conflict because Israel is occupying the land. Palestinians, one is Jew, one is Muslim. Now Arab world is supporting the Palestinian. Now there is a divide. Now what should be our policy? While quietly we kept a relation with Israel, but we did not establish a diplomatic relation with Israel till 1992. Even in 1962 war, only one of the very few countries who supported us with military wares, some devices to monitoring devices, observation devices, Israel. So we have had our relation with Israel even in 62. But for next almost 30 years, we did not recognize Israel as a country because you recognize only when you have diplomatic relation. If you don't have diplomatic relation, you are not recognized. So we did not, because thinking that if we recognize Israel, our Muslim constituency, our people will get offended. This is all in the mind. I mean, nowhere our people did not actually read the mind correctly. Why do we have to suspect the patriotism or nationalism of Muslims, Indian Muslims? They are as much as patriotic as anybody else. But anticipating that no, if we recognize Israel, they will be unhappy. But it took such a long time. And even after that, Prime Minister Modi was the first Prime Minister to have visited Israel. Because every time invitation will come from Israel, the Prime Minister will say, if we go to Israel, what is about the Palestinian? That will offend our people, Muslims in India. Prime Minister made it clear, Palestinian must have their state. So two-state theory. That Israel is there, you cannot deny it. Palestine also must be there. There must be a state, a sovereign state of Palestine. We gave land for establishing Palestinian embassy in Delhi. Even though Palestine as a country doesn't exist. But we said no, Palestine has to be. So two nation, two state, not nation, two state. Palestine and Israel. Having taken this position boldly, we say we have a relation with Israel, we have a relation with our Arab world. So Prime Minister visited Israel without any confusion. And we have very good relation with Israel. And at the same time, we have got in history of independent India, we have the best of relation with the Arab countries. They are our largest, if you look at, exclude US and all, largest trading partners. We have wonderful relations with all the Middle East countries, very good relation. So we were confused, even with Burma, which is now called Myanmar. Myanmar, when military took over, we took an idealistic position that democracy has been suppressed and how can we have a relation with a military rule? So we said, okay, we will not have a relation with military, Burma. But when we moved away from Burma, we started condemning Burma because Americans said sanction lagao, do this and that. Chinese moved inside and they started supporting all our troublemakers of the northeast, all the insurgents, terrorists, and all. They started camping freely in Myanmar because Myanmar said, well, if you don't recognize, if you don't have relation with us, if you treat us that yes we are pariah, then fine, we'll also close our eyes. So that helped China get into Myanmar and our insurgents and to support and encourage insurgents in the northeast because China's whole plan was to break the northeast away from India. So by taking an idealistic position that we are we cannot go against, I mean, cannot go have a relation with a country which is under military rule, suppress the democracy, cannot. It only harmed us. It made life of our people, if not the larger picture, even in Northeast, nearly 3.5 crore people were miserable. In the sense that when you have all around violence, people didn't get nothing. There was no peace. We said no. Our foreign policy is India's national interest first. India's national interest wherever it serves. That is what is there today even in Ukraine and Russia. We have relation with both the countries. We are not non-aligned. We say we are multi-aligned. We are aligned with any country with whom we have a relation. We have mutual benefit. I stand to gain, US stand to gain. We have a relation. And that is why even with China, while we have a very strained relation, our trades are going on. Because this is not an age where you can say you are 100% enemy or 100% friend. With Pakistan, we have nothing. We have closed it. But with China, because we know that Chinese goods, they are cheaper. That is needed for your own economic growth, our own industry. They need Chinese equipment, Chinese machines, which are much cheaper. For example, let us say earth mover. When you build the roads, you have earth movers. Earth movers, you have a choice, you get the Chinese or you get the German or European. The Chinese will be almost 1/4 of the cost of the German. You may say that this earth mover will not last long. Okay, it will last for 5 years. Good enough. But if I get something, 100 rupees instead of that, if I get in 20 rupees, why not buy it? Use it. So we started. We have our relation even with, so it is a very pragmatic relation, practical relation, and that the core of it is our national interest. Whatever serves India's national interest, we will do. We are not driven by so-called ideology. Ideology is there. Ideology is basic good. No war. We have taken war is not an answer to any problem. Climate preservation. We must do something to preserve the climate. We must move away from hydrocarbon-based energy. I mean, carbon-based energy. These are all fine. These are our principal position. But when it comes to nation relation, our interest. Next.
Ms. Diksha.
Good afternoon, sir. And my question is that the post of governor being a hot seat, and especially when it comes to two different parties at the center and the state.
Say again. I just could hear. Get it.
Okay. The post of governor being a hot seat, and especially when there's two different parties at the state and at the center. And I personally feel you are right, like you are striking at the right balance. My question is that have you ever felt that the governors are opposed for the political reasons, more of the political reasons than for the rational one?
Thank you, Diksha. What is the institution of governor? Governor is a constitutional institution, and our constitution has created the position of governor and defined the roles and responsibilities of governor. And among the roles and responsibilities of the governor, in the constitution, if you read, the articles are very clear. There are several articles. First and foremost responsibility of the governor is to protect the constitution of India. Because whether it is a union or the state, each of these entities have to work according to the constitution. That is the sacred document we have. And to protect it, how does governor protect? Not by putting a book of constitution, putting in the log vault, it is safe now. You protect a constitution and protect the constitution when, suppose a state legislature, in our constitution defines also the separation of power. This is the power of the state, this is the power. We have our 7th schedule where you have a union list, you have a state list, and you have concurrent list. So whatever is in the state list, a state makes, whatever union list, and whatever in the concurrent, if the union has not made any law, a state can make the law. Number one. Number two, if the union has made a law already, even then a state can make a law, but that law must be compatible with the union law, like parliament law. This is what it is. Now suppose a state makes a law where it transgresses. After all, what is that? In the legislature, a political party has a brute majority, let us say. They can pass any law. They can pass any bill. That will not be law, that will be bill. The bill will be passed. Now, if it transgresses the constitutional limit, the bill passed by the legislature, by the assembly, does not become a law until governor assents to it. Now, this assenting to is a constitutional responsibility. That the governor has to see whether this bill is exceeding the limit. It's whether the state is exceeding its competence. If it exceeds the competence, then it is the responsibility of the governor to not to assent the bill. And what is the constitution says? Constitution says that a bill passed by the legislature, first of all, we should also realize not the word legislature, assembly, because legislature of a state is defined in the constitution. Legislature of a state consists of, number one, governor. Number two, legislative assembly. And wherever there is legislative council, the legislative council. So governor is a part of the legislature. So a bill passed by the assembly does not mean it is passed by the legislature, because the assembly is a part of the legislature. So when the bill is passed and is sent to the governor, he or she exercises his or her constitutional responsibility of being a constituent of the legislature by taking into account whether this bill is going beyond the competence. And that is why in Article 200 of the Constitution it says that when a bill passed by the assembly is given or forwarded to the governor for assent, governor has three options. One, assent, give assent. Problem is no, there is no problem. Second, withhold the assent. And you know what is withholding means? Withholding doesn't mean that I am just holding it. Withholding has been defined by the Supreme Court, by the Constitution bench. Withholding means the bill falls through, the bill is dead. It is a decent language used for instead of using rejected. That becomes too crude. So when you say withhold, withhold means the bill is dead. Or third, he reserves the bill for the president. But governor reserves the bill for the president. Ideally, there is a discretion of the governor. In some cases, if he does not give assent, it is beyond him. Suppose in a concurrent list, if a subject of the concurrent list, a state assembly has passed a bill. Now, governor cannot give assent on that because parliament has passed a law. So it has to go to the president. So governor reserves it and sends it to the president. For the president, consideration to assent or not to assent. And there again, the president has the same option, withhold the assent or give the assent. Governor can only reserve it. Sometimes governors, sometimes to pass on, okay, I don't like to be a bad boy. I don't, so we pass on to the president. No, that's not the right thing. If I have a look, I am here. A governor is not always to take a very goody pleasant decisions. You have to take hard decision also. If a particular bill is not consistent with, is then it is the and if it is not in the concurrent list on which parliament has made a law, then governor should take a call. So only exception is, there are two exceptions. One is money bill. If it is a money bill, governor has no business to not to do. He has to give assent because then it is a day-to-day expenditure and all those things, they have to be incurred. And the second is one option more that the governor has it, that if it is within the competence of the legislature, or even if it is not within the competence of the legislature, governor has realized it is not within the competence of the legislature. With observation, governor returns the bill to the speaker for reconsideration. Reconsideration of the house. And if the house, after reconsideration, after debate, he has to send for reconsideration along with the reasons why he says that this is not. And then if after the reconsideration, if the assembly again passes the bill and sends to the governor, then the governor has no option but to accord the assent. That is the constitutional position. So as far as whether this union is one party, state is another party, there is a lot of political noise happens. Sometimes governor becomes also okay, viewed as an representing the union politically. Governor is a president's appointee. President appoints the governor. So of course, the president is you can call that she is the one my boss. If I use the word, colloquial word largely, though the constitution makes it very clear that who is who. So it doesn't cause any issue. As far as I feel it, I as a governor feel it, I don't feel any confusion comes when you start thinking extraneous, unnecessary things. You know whether you do your you discharge your responsibility. That's all. Next,
Mr. Lakshman, make your question simple and precise and to the subject.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, China has been seen as a threat to India and also for the global democracy. Sir, China, we are still dependent on China, most of the import. So do you think it will subaltern our territorial sovereignty?
Look, China, we have a serious concern with China, but we are not, actually, if you come to think of it, we are not dependent on China in that way. We can take a hard decision and say, no, we will not import anything from China. We can take that. Only thing is, we have to pay higher price somewhere else. For example, even today, if you come to think of a pure commercial term, because only thing where you can, our relation with China is essentially in the trade and commerce. We have export import. We have, our balance of trade is in favor of China. Our trade is almost more than $140 billion. What we import from China is only a fraction of what they, no, it is much larger than what we export. What we export to China is a small, because China puts a lot of restrictions in giving access to Indian products and services to China. Being a member of the WTO, they are not supposed to do it. So legally, they will not put any objection, but procedurally, they create a problem. For example, let us say, under WTO, they cannot stop us if we are sending something. Let us say, we are pretty good in pharmaceutical. India is considered pharmacy of the world. So when we send our pharmaceutical, they will say they will test it. They will, after all, every country tests it. When we also get some drug from somewhere, we also test it. But in the testing procedure, there will be long delay, years together. What do you call here? Bureaucratic delay. They put that as a deterrent, so that our guy, our manufacturer of medicine, has sent the medicine, but before the medicine is offloaded from the ship, from the warehouse goes, they will say they need to verify, they need to test, and the testing will take a long time. Sometimes what they do, a perishable. If you send perishable, their procedural verification will take you 1 month. By the time everything is rotten, spoiled. What do you do? So adopting these devious means, they have been trying to deny access to, market access to some of our products. We are very good in pharmaceutical, in IT services. We are, but they will. We know that, and we are taking it up regularly. That dialogue is on. One area where we had a serious dependence, if you say that is called API. Do you know what is API? In any drug, the basic ingredient is that chemical called API. In any medicine, India was producing large API before, but once China started producing it, it became cheaper. So we stopped the API industry here, API manufacturing in India. When we stopped the API manufacturing in India, we started only importing from China because it was cheaper. And then we realized some years back that if China by some reason stops giving us the API, let's say for antibiotic, our pharmaceutical companies will not be able to produce antibiotic. And imagine, if we do not have antibiotic, what will happen? Imagine, it will be a total disaster. And then we, as a matter of policy, we are now aggressively pushing towards manufacturing of API in India, reducing our dependence on that, China. This is a strategic dependence we had. Now we have reduced it because they were the largest API manufacturer in the world. They being the cheap, the whole world started buying from them only. Larger part of the world, and so did we. So we have now, that was a strategic dependence. Now I said, gave an example of earth mover. Earth mover is not a strategic dependence. We cannot put it, stop it. No, we'll buy from Germany, fine. We'll pay the price. But that will be taking us a cost, putting a cost on us. But when medicine, the basic ingredient of medicine, which is API, we don't have, it will cost lives. Millions and millions of people will die. So that a strategic dependence we have reduced, and we are coming out of it. We have started big way, giving push to our people to manufacture API. So we don't have much dependence on China. No. Next.
Mr. Deepak?
Sir, our government has transformed from soft state to the state willing to take risks. However, recent steps like tightening of FCR Act has got its criticism from the West. How do you see this criticism, sir?
Look, FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. This is an act of parliament that any entity, individual or entity, that is organization, that receives foreign contribution from foreign country, if it is a one-time contribution, there is no need for registration. But if it is a regular remittance, regular coming, then it has to have, that entity must have a registration done with the Home Ministry, Union Home Ministry. Now, this is one area through which the money comes from foreign country, foreign sources to India, not to government. It is to non-government entities. What we realized, that a number of NGOs, they were receiving FCRA grant, remittances, not all grant, remittances, thousands of crores, not one, racks, 100 crore, 50 crore, 20 crore, 10 crore, but we have several 100,000 NGOs. Some of them were receiving this FCRA, and the donors were sitting in foreign country. They were sending money for activities which were prejudicial, which were anti-national in nature. Now, for example, let us say, here we are in Tamil Nadu. We have a nuclear plant in South, Kanyakumari district. Now, every time you start the work, there is a protest in the name of some in climate, some about the fallout, non-safety. And we realize that this money actually trail, those who are active here, nobody comes out of hungry stomach in the field to do it. So there has to be a support. The money trails goes to those entities in the foreign country, Europe, US, different countries, from where the money is being sent for these activities. So sometimes in the name of human rights, sometimes in the name of climate or green, environment, different names. For example, let us say in Northeast, every year there are shell entities sitting in Europe and US. They were sending more than 250 crore every year in the Northeast for conversion purposes. Now, should we allow that? Should there be a check? Should there be okay, there is no harm. You get foreign money, right? But it should not be used for a purpose which is harmful to our national interest. So for very long time, this regulation was not, it was taken for granted that you can take money from anywhere you get it. This is a formality. At the most, there is some corruption element involved. You pay some money to some staff here and there and get the registration. But in the process, our country started bleeding. Amnesty International, it has a big name, Amnesty International, sitting in Bangalore. They were receiving money and they were creating hurdles for many of our projects, national projects. You must have read in the newspaper, Vedinjam port. The port to land connectivity, it suffered 1 year plus. That people did not allow sitting on the road. No, we will not allow you to, because this port will destroy the marine life, and the fisherman livelihood will be affected. Experts, National Green Tribunal, Supreme Court, everyone have said it is not going to affect. It is not going to affect the marine life. It is not going to affect the livelihood. But construction will not be allowed. And those who were doing, they were getting money from abroad. Now it gave a setback. Today, at this point of time, when our country is rising, country is growing, progressing, you will have more and more pressure. There was a question on radicalization. Today, the foreign elements are not in a position to take on India directly. So our vulnerability is within. Create issues, create disharmony, create a situation which just stops the progress, create tensions, create riots. Now take the case of Esterlite. There's in Thuttukudi. It was a purely foreign funded entire activities which led to the protest, unfortunate police firing, and that cost innocent lives. That is a very sad part of it. But they wanted this Esterlite to be closed because that Esterlite produced 40% of our copper need. And you know how copper is important for electronic industry. They closed it. Even now it remains closed 10 years down the line. And all those people, those who were behind, they were getting FCRA, foreign contribution. Now we said no. We need to be strict about it. We must be. It is not as strict even today, my view is, as it should be, but it's in the process. Criticism will be there. That's okay. People have freedom, constitutional right to protest and say something. That is perfectly all right. Government has to do its job. Government has to ensure that our national interests are protected. And anything that goes against that purposefully is meant to inhibit or retard our growth and create a problem, disharmony. So radicalization, what you see today, which is happening, they are also foreign funded mostly. If you look at the PFI, Popular Front of India, most of the fund it comes from outside. They have created India Fraternity Forum, India Fraternity Front. Very nice, very good name, isn't it? India Fraternity, haha. But this is all a label for getting all the money to create a problem, terrorist activity. All these people from India, whether from Kerala, from Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, they went to ISIS, Islamic State, to Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. Most of 90% of them were through PFI. And they get money, FCRA comes. No, it is not acceptable. So, criticism will be there. After all, it is a freedom. You can criticize it. Next.
Mr. Mano Venkat.
Hi, sir. So, what are all the qualities you seem that aspirant should have and a good bureaucrat should have? What are all the qualities?
Aspirant, I have said right at the beginning, you must be self-disciplined, must be focused. Self-discipline means self-discipline in your day-to-day life, your time management, your health management. Those things are most important. And as far as aspirants are concerned, there is nothing more I see. Hard work, discipline. Take care of health and study well. As a civil servant, there are more needs because you have already crossed it. You don't have to 14 hours you have to study. But then the most important quality that a civil servant must have, if they don't have already, is humility. You must be humble. You get suddenly from nobody, you become somebody, big bird. Nobody takes note. Oh, so many people are there. Suddenly you become an IS officer and IP. That should not get into your head. You are here to serve. You must be somewhere thankful to all those, because many people there are, if suppose if out of millions, if 1000 or 800 people are selected, that doesn't mean the rest are all useless. No, they are also brilliant, equally brilliant, maybe more brilliant, but somehow they couldn't make it. Be humble. In the office where you are, the person who gives you water or a clerk who gives you papers, they also graduate or also human being. Maybe some of them or your subordinate also might have written examination, bad luck, couldn't make it. Realize that what you have cracked is your effort, but there were not many. Your parents, your friends, circumstances, or maybe some unknown person at some point of time met you and told you something which hit him, and you started working. So count the blessings. Be humble. Have the humility. A person who comes and offers you a glass of water in your office, be thankful to him. Don't say, okay, I am Sahib. No, that's not. Humility. Humility and sense of service. It gives you an opportunity. You look at it as a job. Okay, fine. Or look it as a rare opportunity to serve. If you look at it as a rare opportunity to serve, then of course it has a different flavor. You enjoy it much more. Humility. Yes. Next.
Basava.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is, Red Corridor has been continuously shrinking. What had gone right in handling Maoist, which is different from previous policies?
Maoist, right? There was a time when Maoist all over, there were almost 185 districts were affected. We're talking about Red Corridor, from south going to Jharkhand, going to Nepal. There was a time when UPA 2 regime, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh said, this is the most serious threat to our country. And today they are nowhere. Just a few small here margin. Some pockets of Chhattisgarh, maybe small pocket of Gadchiroli, very marginal presence in Jharkhand and all, Odisha. No. Primarily because this government made it very clear that no, zero tolerance to gun. Earlier we were saying they are our people. After all, they have lost the way. Try to bring them. The point is, when the cell of your body becomes cancerous, you don't say it is a part of my body. It is a part of your body, but it will kill the rest. You need radiotherapy. You need to. You cannot. We have to draw a line. No. If you have a problem, gun is not an answer. You cannot pick up gun. And if you pick up with a gun, it's zero tolerance. We'll deal with it. So with earlier, they should have a talk, engage them. No. They were the worst enemy of development. They did not allow roads to be built, hospitals to be built, schools to be opened. They didn't allow that. So we said, fuck. No question, deal with. That is one, on the ground. Second is, there were a lot of people who were supporting, many of them through FCRA money, sitting in cities. Delhi was a hotbed. Universities, in the name of freedom of expression, ideologue, Maoist supporter. They were professors. They were people, very, very, well known, otherwise well known NGOs, saying them as if they have a development deficit. Because there is no development, they are angry. Because forest is being denuded and they are not being accessed, exploitation is happening. So these were all people who were actually providing them ideological and moral support. And also at times when they were in trouble, they escaped and took to, when you come to Delhi, nobody thinks of Delhi will not be Maoist. Maoists are in Chhattisgarh. But those people who were wanted, they were living in the houses of professors and others in Delhi and operating from there. The question is the foot soldier alone to be blamed, or the general or the mastermind? Then we say, realize this urban Naxalism has to go. People sitting in urban area and providing them ideological, moral, and other support, they are equally responsible. And so we started. And even the courts have defended the actions of the government. When they went to the court questioning it, court said, no, fine, you are guilty. So very with clarity that, and what the Maoists say? Maoists don't say about development. The very core of Maoism is don't believe in parliamentary democracy. Means they don't believe in our constitution. They don't believe in parliament. They want a different kind of China-like. Now, how can you have a soft corner or negotiate with them? You cannot. So we must have a clarity in mind how to deal with. We have a clarity. As a result, all these areas we have got roads, we got hospitals, we got schools, development work is going on. And they have just a small pocket, and that is a last breath, gasping for breath. They will also go. So the fundamental difference is with a clarity, zero tolerance to gun. They are ideological supporters, and moral other supporters also are part of it. They are equally culpable. They are also responsible. They are being charged and booked. Things are not done. If we have a clarity, no confusion, as I said in foreign policy, we all kept talking about, we were confused, non-aligned, and we had a problem. Any more question?
Last question by Ms. Marcia.
Okay. Okay. So my question is that in Northeast India, secessionist tendencies since independence had multiplied to a very great extent that caused bleeding to both internal and external security. So what do you think had gone wrong in handling these secession groups?
The fundamental thing that went wrong was lack of understanding of the people and the problem. Because, during the British time, mixing of the people, movement of people from one region to the other was stopped. So people became confined. For example, Northeast. In 1765, in fact, 1760 itself, after the Battle of Palasi, when the British took control of Bengal, Bengal means North Bengal is the gateway to Northeast. They completely disconnected the Northeast after they took over Bengal, because Bengal was also present in Bangladesh. So this whole Bengal was under their control, and the entire Northeast got completely detached. There was no communication. There was no movement of people. Earlier, there was a frequent movement, traders, students, people to move. Now, so the people, both regions became a stranger to each other over a period of 150, 200 years. And then, the British had also created a narrative that you are different. When the national freedom started, that is what they created, the theory of race and region, all those, they started dividing the people. So when the British left, our leaders, they didn't have here, they didn't have a good understanding of the people and the problem. When British left and we started interacting, they said, no, we are not Indians. We have become Indian only because of the British they brought us. Otherwise, we are not Indians. Now, our people also started somewhere, some people started believing it also. And we said, okay, no, no, we must be. I think we have to do something special to just bring them around. So what happened? We adopted a policy, give a lot of money for development and put a lot of military to suppress the violence. That is what I used to call it S is equal to M square. Security is military into money. That doesn't work. That didn't work. Because when we started putting money for development, this money, instead of going for development, they went to a few corrupt people. They started becoming super rich and money to the troublemakers. No, we are not Indians. It became an industry. The insurgency became an industry. People started benefiting. Some people, larger number of people started suffering. It kept multiplying. It covered the whole region. When you put military, military will only look from the military point of view. Okay, everywhere they will see guns. But no. The change that happened is, and even there we had a policy, they are our people. We must have talked to them. We must bring them around. We must deal with them softly and try to win them over. The same thing which happened with Maoist. Now, when this government came, we changed this. We say no. With gun, zero tolerance. We will not accept gun. Anyone with gun will be dealt with seriously. If you don't give up gun, you may die. And for that, no heart will bleed. Okay. And the second is not treating the people as different. We are, this period, the British period, which separated us and became a stranger, we are not a stranger. We are all Indians, we are part of it. So if you start looking them as yours, they also start looking you. Their attitude also changes. And what happened in the last 7-8 years, in the Northeast, till about 10 years back, we used to lose about nearly 1,500 to 2,000 people every year in violence. 300 to 400 security force personnel used to die everywhere. And that is how Armed Forces Special Power Act. It kept extending. New areas. He said no. No question of tolerating with gun, and you are us. There is no appeasement, there is no discrimination. You will have all the things which the advanced states of the country has. We have started investing a lot. We built thousands of kilometers of highways. Rail extended to in the hills, every estate. We widely extended the rail network. Number of airports increased. Today, when 20 years back, from Delhi to Guwahati, one flight, at the most later because I had one more. Today we have more than 65 flights a day. They are all connected with all the places, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad. Same day you can fly to Imphal, Guwahati, all the places. People. No. And we told them very clearly that no question of any tolerating any gun. We'll fight. We'll fight, but at the same time we will also do things for the development. And today, the north, you have good big hotels coming up. If you look at the road network in most part of, still they are under construction in some parts in the hilly areas, mountainous areas. The rest of the area, You have lovely 4-lane, 8-lane highways all around. So it's all a story of happiness. People, this investment starts coming. People start getting jobs. They are start earning money. Life changes. The whole narrative changes. So zero tolerance to gun, and you are not different from us. We are all member of a family. It is our duty to take care of your duty also to be equal partner in the progress. That is what happened. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do well. Wish you all the best. Be disciplined. First, make up your mind. Are you serious about it? If you are serious, go whole hog. There's no question of 90%. It has to be 100% you have to.
Now I call upon Ms. Sweshika and Karpa Saravanan to share their rich experience very swiftly about the session. Think to Dare.
A warm afternoon to one and all gathered here. I'm grateful for this opportunity. First of all, I thank you very much, sir, for spending your valuable time with us. And hearing the role of governor from you makes us like easily understandable. I wish to quote like Tirukural, Idipara illada Emara Mannan Kedupar ilanum kedum. Which means even an efficient king without a proper guidance from an eminent person will destroy himself. So your words means a lot to us, sir. It will help us throughout our journey, and it will guide us. So thank you.
Good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon to everyone who are present over here. First, I would like to thank our Honorable Governor, sir, for providing this wonderful opportunity to us. So, sir, you have always been a source of inspiration and motivation to us, young aspirants like us. You have always taken special time to young aspirants to nurture their minds, to inbuild their qualities, and to make them the better bureaucrats of tomorrow. So, thank you so much for that. And I would like to say this will be a lifetime opportunity for all of us over here to be here in Raj Bhavan with you mentoring us. So thank you so much for that also. And so before you started your powerful speech, you wanted everyone to introduce themselves. So it's good to see that you wanted everyone to introduce themselves. So it shows how sincere you are with the students who all came here to attend this session. And I know everyone over here would have felt at least a sense of satisfaction that everyone got a chance to interact with you by introducing themselves. Are you serious? Sir, it's a great question which you asked to us. And I think most of us seriously not going to get sleep tonight. So including me. So you gave the question and we will find the answers, sir. And you also insisted about how discipline and health plays an important role in the preparation stage. And we have seen this syllabus a number of times, the syllabus of this preliminary examination a number of times before, but you gave us an idea to see it in a strategic way. So, so, so hereafter we will also try to see that in a strategic way because we got this advice from the great strategist himself. And the example which you gave for harder subjects with appetite and eating, it was delicious. Seriously. And the idea of using obit section from the newspapers was enlightening. And finally, I can thank you all day for this opportunity. I want to say you that be the youth who all present over here in this hall and the youth in this great state. We all stand with you, and we ensure and we assure you that we will take your legacy to tomorrow. And thank you so much, sir. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We now request you all to raise for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलति तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तब जय गाता जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
I request all the IAS aspirants to swiftly move to the lawn for a group photograph with the Honorable Governor, and that will be followed with an elaborate and delicious lunch